How's it going, HellDivers? Doc here with Eyes Wide Shot Gaming, and today we have not only a brand new warbond coming in a few hours, but also we just received a massive patch that implements a ton of new enhancements to our stratagems and weapons. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date on all of your HellDivers 2 news, info, builds, and breakdowns, as well as many other games. So let's dive right into it and begin with our stratagems that have had a surplus of wild changes. Our first big change comes to the rocket sentry. The developers over at Arrowhead have realized that it was too inconsistent against the medium and larger enemies, so they went ahead and altered it to make it more consistent against said enemies, allowing us to have a better ammo economy, as well as separate it from the autocannon sentry that has a higher damage output but can waste ammo by shooting targets that are already dead. The next well-deserved change is directed at our machine gun sentry. I'm a huge fan of the machine gun sentry and the Gatling sentry, so this was a fantastic change. The machine gun sentry was seen as a worse version of the Gatling sentry, so they went ahead and lowered the cooldown slightly to make it a more readily available stratagem. Aside from all this, all the sentry turrets have been feeling a little bit like cardboard, so their durability has been increased against small arms fire, since during the heat of battle they get dinged up pretty bad by us and our teammates. Moving on to the HMG emplacement. This was initially designed to defend a fixed point but was not utilized often enough, causing this stratagem to be put on the back burner by a lot of us HellDivers. Since this was the case, Arrowhead has increased the rotation speed of the HMG emplacement, allowing it to be a more viable choice in battles. Next up, the anti-personnel mines and incendiary mines. Their idea was to be a strong and volatile way of blocking off certain approaches for a short time, but they sadly have not lived up to that role, so they are being looked at to be improved, but for now, both incendiary and personnel mines have had their damage increased to improve effectiveness against said targets. Let's move on down to the orbitals. We start with the orbital Gatling. Again, another stratagem that was not very effective in battle against any specific target. So in order for better saturation of the target area, the cooldown timer has been lowered to make it more available and competitive against Eagle stratagems. Next is the Orbital Precision Strike, one of my personal favorites. This stratagem was intended to be used against spawners and fixed positions, but apparently we have been throwing this bad boy at everything we can. So the developers saw this and figured to make it a little easier to use against moving targets by lowering the call-in time as well as lowering the cooldown by 10 seconds, dropping down from 100-second cooldown to 90. Again, this is to better compete against the Titans of Destruction we call Eagle stratagems. Our last orbital to be changed up is the Airburst Strike, another stratagem forgotten, often due to its lackluster ability to do its job, so it had its cooldown lowered as well to stay viable in missions. Now for the Eagle stratagems, the Eagle 110mm rocket pods were very inconsistent in dealing with main targets, those being heavily armored enemies, which caused them to be changed temporarily to a more accurate drop. This is still subject to change as the developers are asking for feedback from the community. The next Eagle stratagem is the Strafing Run. This is yet another stratagem that is rarely put to use in battle as it wasn't as effective as many others, so to mitigate the said issue, it had its armor penetration increased so it is more reliable in killing medium armored targets and weakening heavily armored targets. This is also subject to change though. The developers over at Arrowhead didn't stop there. We have gotten a solid increase to some weapon stratagems as well. The GL-21 grenade launcher has had its explosion damage increased to put it in a better place when it comes to dealing with hordes and is now more effective against some medium armored enemies. And the MG-206 heavy machine gun, the failed weapon of HellDivers, has seen another change since it failed to deliver on the fantasy of a heavy machine gun upon release. The fire rate has been further lowered, allowing us to have better ammo efficiency as well as increase the damage and stagger so that each hit is significant. Last but not least, the MG43 machine gun. Initially great crowd clear capabilities, has been a letdown most of the time due to its reload and recoil. So the developers have lowered the reload time and gave it an additional magazine, as well as has gotten a damage buff. We also saw a change to small arms fire. Small arms fire in the game does less damage to durable body parts. However, many small arms were doing the same damage percentage-wise, which does not represent the larger impact a rifle-type round would have compared to other types. Therefore, rifle-type bullets are now slightly more effective against durable body parts. The weapons that have seen these changes are the AR-23 Liberator, the M105 Stalwart, the AX and AR-23 Guard Dogs, the AR-23C Liberator Concussive, the R-63 Diligence, the BR-14 Adjudicator, AR-61 Tenderizer, MG-43 Machine Gun, MG-43 Machine Gun Sentry, the G-16 Gatling Sentry, and the XO-45 Patriot Exosuits Gatling. This allows weapons with higher caliber be better effective against durable body parts. We are not done yet. We have a whole list of weapons that have seen some extreme changes as well. Starting up, the BR-14 Adjudicator had a boatload of issues from reload to low mag count, so we now have an increased magazine capacity. As well as the AR-61 Tenderizer. This has also seen some changes from being a forgotten weapon to a precise assault rifle that rewards high accuracy play with heavy hitting rounds. Our PLAS 101 Purifier has also gotten an increase to its armor penetration of the projectile and reduced the damage falloff of the explosion. Next up, the CB9 Explosive Crossbow, another weapon that sounded solid on paper, but just like communism fell apart in battle. Now the developers have increased both the projectile and the explosion penetration against medium armored enemies, which should make the crossbow a more consistent weapon. And finally, the R36 Eruptor yet again needs another surgery for it to be a functional weapon in battle. So we are getting a huge increase of 150 more damage per explosion to make it more consistent without introducing new issues like the whole shrapnel incidents. Other changes we have received are recoil stance modifiers to make them more consistent and also reward us for going prone. We will be seeing changes between a 10 to 15% increase to accuracy when crouched and a 10% increase to accuracy when prone, on top of the bonus to accuracy we already get while in those stances. Hopefully these changes enhance all of our gameplay and bring back a big chunk of the community that we did lose. And as always, HellDivers, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and until next time, so long.